First of all, was there any part of you today tempted not to come to the party conference?
No. I wanted to come to the party conference. I remain a Conservative. I'm sorry that I'm no longer taking the whip. But I am a Conservative, as I've often said, to my fingertips. My instincts are Conservative, and I'm pleased to be at the conference.
What have you made of day one of this conference?
In personal terms, a lot of people coming up and expressing support for the things I'm saying, sometimes some of the things I'm saying, not necessarily all of them, and concern, I think, about the general direction of the party and how we're going to get through this current political crisis in one piece.
The Prime Minister has been announcing £13 billion of hospitals today. He's also faced lots of questions on a number of different issues. Do you think when you've been saying recently that the Prime Minister is not fit to lead, today was an example of why you've been saying that?
The Prime Minister is a man of very considerable talents. I also happen to think, as I've said, that he has some very serious flaws. And within a parliamentary democracy, trust is of great importance. Trust not only to deliver a partisan agenda, but to lead the country and be trusted to do it within the norms of our constitution. The behaviour that we've seen over the last couple of weeks offends that very badly. And with our unwritten constitution, it makes the framework under which we operate unworkable. And that creates a cycle of distrust which makes ordinary politics very difficult. It leads to death threats. It leads to people getting very angry and very worked up. And he has a responsibility to ensure that doesn't happen. And I'm afraid that so far he hasn't been exercising that responsibility. Indeed, even right up to this morning, there have been further examples of his apparent inability to do this, or his inability to control the people who are doing it on his behalf.
When you talk about this morning, what are you talking in directly reference to?
This morning I woke up to discover that a story had been given by the government, by Number 10, to the Mail on Sunday, suggesting that Conservative MPs were acting in some treasonable, collusive relationship with foreign powers, receiving foreign money, and that Number 10 had decided to order an inquiry. Sounded like a sort of criminal investigation. Well, these were completely untrue on a number of points. Firstly, I'm not aware of any collusion. There has been none. There are parliamentarians of all parties working together who disagree with the government and want to prevent a no-deal Brexit. Secondly, the suggestion that Number 10 Downing Street has the power to initiate this inquiry is complete rubbish. So there are two statements coming from apparently an authoritative source, which are simply not true. And it's not the way one would normally expect a United Kingdom government to operate. So inevitably, if that happens, it diminishes the trust levels again. And of course, one of the immediate consequences is that because it whips up this political frenzy, you then start getting death threats. It was one which came through on my email this afternoon when I was just travelling up on the train.
Well, you had a death threat this afternoon?
Yes. And you see
sent
this...
to your email?
Sent to my email. I've passed it to the police, it'll be passed to the police, and doubtless we'll dealt with. And most of these are just froth. I want to emphasise this. What comes out on social media and email tends to be people getting very angry and carried away. But how can you have a reasonable dialogue in those circumstances? It's much harder, so you have to stay very focused and ignore all this. And then the second thing you have to ask yourself is, why is the government doing it? What's the motivation for doing this and for attacking people in this way? There is no reasonable grounds for doing so. It may be that Mr. Cummings, who appears to have control really of the Prime Minister, believes that by whipping up the heat, it may be electorally advantageous further down the road. But it's a very dangerous thing to do in a democracy, because once you start this, you start to raise the temperature on all sides. And we're very, very blessed in this country that for all our political disagreements, including over Brexit, and I understand that people will be upset and angry and take different viewpoints, that if you start raising the temperature in this way, and above all you start telling lies and saying things which you have no rational basis to believe are true, you are doing a very grave disservice, and it's a very unconservative thing to do.
Final question from me. We're gathering a rather crowd here. There is talk of a vote of no confidence in the government. Dominic Dominic Grieve today said that warned Tory MPs, former Tory MPs, that they shouldn't be tempted to vote with opposition to put Jeremy Corbyn in power. Would you ever vote against the government to make Jeremy Corbyn a caretaker Prime Minister?
I've made very clear that Jeremy Corbyn is a highly partisan figure in our national politics. He's entitled to his views, but the idea that he could lead a government of national unity seems to me to be utterly fanciful. And as my own view is that he is not a suitable person to do it, and as I am a Conservative, I'm certainly not going to facilitate his arrival into Downing Street in that fashion.